I wish I'd never split from my rich university boyfriend. Then I'd be married to someone who enjoys life instead of my reserved, frugal husband. So she had an ex-boyfriend who decades ago, she broke up with decades ago. Now he's rich and she's regretting it. And her current husband has to suffer for it because every moment of every day, she's comparing her current husband to her ex-boyfriend. So as I pushed my trolley around Aldi looking for the cheapest rice and pasta I could find to feed the family, I thought wistfully of my first love, Rupert. I spotted on Instagram, just returned from a sailing trip in Greece, where I imagine he stayed with his beautiful wife and chillins on a chartered yacht with a personal chef and a skipper. We, on the other hand, spent our last holiday in rainy Wales in a tiny bungalow. We didn't go out to eat once because my husband said we couldn't afford it. What? He wouldn't even let you go into massive debt? Oh my God. What? Ditch him immediately. He's not worthy of you, princess. As for foreign holidays, it's been 3 years since we got on a plane, and I have no idea when we'll be able to afford to go again. So, you don't have to go overseas multiple times a year. Most of us don't. It's hard not to compare and, quite frankly, regret the romantic choice I've made. God, like imagine her husband coming across this article. Is she doing this under her real name? Published by Anonymous. Okay, at least she's smart there. So I broke up with Rupert. So she admits that she broke up with him 25 years ago, and I still torture myself with what might have been. I think about how much easier life would be if I wasn't worrying about energy bills or how we were going to pay for our daughter's school trip. I daydream about how wonderful it would be to be married to someone who knew how to enjoy life and didn't spend half his time fretting about his pension. How about you do more to contribute to the money situation then? Why are you putting it all on your husband? I met Rupert on my first day at university in the late 90s. He was that tall, dark, and handsome cliche, beautifully dressed in a Ralph Lauren shirt and preppy chinos. I plucked up the courage to chat him up, and later that night, we ended up kissing. Next morning, he knocked on my door and we went for breakfast. I was completely smitten. I didn't realize at first how rich he was. He casually mentioned a flat in Chelsea, and then one weekend, he took me back to his parents' house, a huge Tudor pile with wooden paneling in the hall, and in an affluent enclave of Surrey. The neighbors included an A-list celebrity and a Premier League footballer. It was a world away from my life, growing up in the suburbs of a small town in the Midlands. So she knew how rich he was when she broke up with him. Oh, man. And let me guess, it wasn't over anything serious like he snuggled her or he abused her or something. But I'm not happy. Yeah, you may be a good provider, but Chad and Tyrone give me much better sex. So bye. And when we were still students, Rupert took me to a restaurant in London's Knightsbridge, which he told me was one of Princess Diana's favorites. He flew me out to his parents' holiday house in Palm Springs, and to this day, I've only ever flown. To this day, the only time I've ever flown first class. I've never flown first class. So yeah, way to flex on there, bitch. The whole thing was hugely exciting. Not having to worry about money gave him a charm and a lightness which I've never encountered again in my life. And you threw it all away. I guess since you had one super rich boyfriend, you just assumed that there would be another one waiting for you if you broke up with this guy, right? I bet that's what you thought. Yes, we were only 18 and obviously didn't have much to worry about, but I love the fact that he didn't take life too seriously. Yeah, you don't have to take life too seriously when you're born rich and you don't have to worry about paying your bills. It's weird that when you actually have to worry about how you're going to feed yourself, you have to take life seriously. Damn. Who could have predicted? So that's pretty much the opposite of my quiet, reserved, frugal husband, a grammar school boy from the north. He's a saver rather than a spender, and everything, even a day trip with the Chillins, has to be planned weeks in advance, as it should be. Our life was hardly what I would call a struggle, but even though Daniel earns a good salary, we are constantly worrying about money. My part-time job doesn't go so far we are mostly reliant on his income. So every time I suggest doing anything spontaneous, like visiting a theme park or even going to the pub with the kids, he makes some sort of excuse not to go. I find myself wondering, how did this end up being my life? Well, you had the rich Chad that had everything and you broke up with him. That's how this ended up being your life. And then by the time you found your current husband, he was the best you could possibly do. Yeah, that's what whammons need to realize. Like the older they get, the smaller the amount of guys, and the lower their standards needs to get. I have to admit to looking up Rupert's wife online too. I googled her and found a work video of hers, which I have watched several times. She actually looks a bit like me, and she doesn't seem, from what I've seen, to be that posh either. Yeah, I bet this guy has a type, and when you broke up with him, he was able to find another one because look, from what you described this guy as, he sounds like he'd be the perfect 10. He has his pick of any woman he wants. It likely wasn't too hard for him to find someone that was similar enough to you without the attitude. So I wish I realized how lucky I had been and hadn't let my insecurities get the better of me. Rupert never mentioned money, and I remember being embarrassed bringing him back to our boring red brick house. Dude, at least you had a house to bring him back to. Most people don't even have that. So lots of people would probably have been proud of it, but I felt it was tiny and cramped compared to his mansion. Well, it was, but different worlds and all. So I ended up self-sabotaging the relationship by kissing the captain of the rugby team, who I didn't even fancy, one very drunken night. Rupert dumped me the next day. Yeah, he saw how loyal you would be, and he made the right choice. Dude, this Rupert guy sounds like he dodged a fucking bullet. Yeah, it sounds like the his current wife, they've been together for ages. They're probably fine. Yeah, he's a based Rupert. Yeah, so he knew he could get any woman he wants. Why would he stay with the cheating 304? Like literally any woman he could get. Yeah, the alcohol. Yeah, that's one thing that people seem to gloss over when it comes to alcohol. It lowers your inhibitions. It makes you more likely to do the things you always want to do, yet you usually don't. You keep it under control. Yeah, so I guess he saw, oh, I see what she wants to do. So I sometimes fantasize about what it would be like if we ever met up again. Years ago, I did see him at a mutual friend's 30th, and we had a lovely chat. I got a bit drunk and flirty, and I remember him gently putting his arm around me to steady me after I stood up to say hello to someone. He looked just how I remembered him, and we chatted like old friends. Yeah, he was clearly over you by then, but it sounds like you weren't over him. I know that by now, more than 2 decades later, I really should have moved on, but I haven't. It's one of those sliding door things. Yeah, dude, this woman, she knows she fucked up bad, and it is eating her up. She's like, fuck, I could have been married to a multimillionaire, not working at all, just traveling from one international vacation to another. I could have had that, but I fucked it up. But like I said in the title, like the real victim in all of this is this woman's current husband. I wonder if he even knows how much she basically regrets getting with him. It sounds like she doesn't love or appreciate him at all. Just constantly comparing him to her ex-boyfriend who was a fucking millionaire. Yeah, this is why you got to be very mindful if you're planning on getting with a woman that has a lot of baggage, because yeah, this is going to be your life. You're never going to measure up to her past experiences. So logically, I realized that if we'd gone on to marry, there probably have been things about Rupert that would have driven me mad. He probably snores, spent ages in the loo, and forgets to pick up the milk on the way home, like my husband. What makes you think Rupert picks up anything on the way home? Sounds like he can afford to have to pay someone to do that. They probably have like a live-in maid or something that does that. but I bet he isn't permanently filled with angst about money, and I bet his wife doesn't have to put back any luxuries, even in Aldi. Okay, well look at it this way. Look at it from his perspective. Yeah, your husband is probably like, yeah, and I bet his wife isn't constantly pining over someone she broke up with 20 years ago and is bitter as fuck about. So you live and learn, as they say. But if I could go back in time, I would tell my 18-year-old self that she should never let him go. That's true. Hindsight's 2020. This, like I said, we're going to be seeing a lot more stories like this about women really regretting their past decisions. But sadly, these are decisions you can't really learn from and move on. Like she said, you live and learn, but you can't really put what you learned from this into practice, at least not for yourself. I will give this woman credit here. I don't know. I think she may have done this unintentionally and isn't really deserving of the credit, sure. But the only way she could really put this knowledge to use at this point is by sharing it with younger women, and especially her daughter, which is going to be pretty awkward because then her husband's going to find out. But try to let younger women know not to make the same mistakes she did, because it's too late for her. There's no going back. No rich millionaires are going to be coming around picking her up ever. But maybe she can make a difference in someone else's life. And we all know damn well that all those 18-year-olds that she could be warning, they know better. Like, whatever, grandma. I lose this millionaire, I'll just get another one. I got this one, so I could get another one. Am I right? Yeah, this is someone who rolled a 1,000 on 1,000 side dice and thought, well, if I did it once, I could just do it again. And let's just forget that you can only roll the dice once every year. So you got on average like what, 80 rolls, and you rolled 1,000 on your first roll. Like, well, I'll keep going. I don't like what I got with this 1,000. Maybe I'll get a better 1,000. I'll like my next 1,000 better. You're not gonna roll 1,000 again. Oh man, people are just nuts. I get it though. Hindsight's 2020. You don't know what you've had until you lost it. I know. That's all true. But some of these things should be obvious. Like, imagine having a fucking millionaire locked down at 18 and blowing it. Like, that takes talent.